You know, it's funny how we look at famous people sometimes. We see them on TV, in movies, or in magazines, and they feel larger than life. They look untouchable, almost like superheroes who can't be broken. But the truth? Behind the spotlight, behind the fame, they're just human beings like the rest of us. They carry pain, they face struggles, and sometimes, the strongest-looking people are the ones who suffer the most in silence. And that brings me to Jack Lord. You probably remember him best as Steve McGarrett on Hawaii Five-0. He had that commanding voice, that sharp stare, and of course, that famous line, "Book 'em, Dano." To millions of viewers, Jack Lord wasn't just playing a detective, he was the detective. He was strong, confident, and always in control. He felt like someone you could count on, week after week, year after year. But here's the part most fans never knew. Behind that tough exterior was a man who carried deep heartbreak. And in his final days, he went through a painful, slow decline that was hidden away from the public. His story is powerful, but also heartbreaking. And once you hear it, you might see him in a whole new way. So let's talk about Jack Lord. Not just the star you saw on TV, but the man behind it. His rise, his private pain, and the truth about how his life came to an end. And along the way, maybe you'll find something in his story that connects with your own life too. Jack Lord's journey didn't start in Hollywood. He wasn't just some actor who lucked into a role. He was a man of many talents. Did you know he was actually a trained artist before he made it big on screen? He painted, he loved art, and for a time, it seemed like that would be his path. But then he found acting, and like so many people chasing a dream, he struggled. He worked hard, he faced rejection, and he lived through ups and downs that would have crushed most people. By the time Hawaii Five-0 came along in 1968, Jack had already lived a full life. He had seen struggle. He had seen loss. He had pushed through so much just to reach that moment. And when he stepped into the role of Steve McGarrett, it wasn't just another job. It was his chance to leave a mark. And boy, did he leave a mark. Think about it. Every week, millions of people tuned in to see him. He became a household name. Families gathered around their TVs. His face, his voice, his presence, it all became part of American culture. He wasn't just playing a cop. He was defining what a TV hero looked like. He became the standard. But here's where things take a turn. While the world saw this strong, unshakable man, Jack was carrying something heavy that almost no one knew about. Years before his fame, Jack and his wife Marie suffered a tragedy that shaped the rest of their lives. They lost their only child in infancy. Imagine the weight of that. Losing a baby, and carrying that grief for the rest of your life. It's the kind of pain that never really leaves you, no matter how much success or fame you find later. And Jack carried that pain quietly. He didn't share it with the world. He didn't use it to gain sympathy. He kept it inside, and it stayed with him. While fans saw power and control, Jack was also a man living with heartbreak. On set, he was known for being a perfectionist. Some people even said he was hard to work with. But think about it, when you've gone through loss, when you've built your whole life on pushing through pain, wouldn't you want everything you touched to be perfect? For Jack, it wasn't about ego. It was about pouring everything he had into his work. Acting wasn't just a job, it was his way of giving meaning to his life. Of course, that intensity came at a cost. Some of his co-stars felt the pressure. Some friendships didn't last. His circle got smaller. The bigger his career became, the lonelier his personal life got. It's a reminder that success doesn't always mean happiness. Sometimes, the higher you climb, the more isolated you feel. As the years passed, Jack and his wife Marie began to step away from the spotlight. They chose a quiet life in Hawaii, far from Hollywood's chaos. Fans who once saw him on TV every week started asking questions. where did Jack Lord go? Why isn't he acting anymore? The truth was heartbreaking. Jack wasn't just retiring. He was fighting a battle no one could see. He had developed Alzheimer's disease. Now, if you've ever known someone with Alzheimer's, you know how cruel it can be. It doesn't just take away your memory. It slowly strips away your identity. The sharp mind, the quick wit, the confidence, piece by piece, it all fades. And for someone like Jack Lord, a man who had built his life on strength and control, it was devastating. Imagine that for a second. A man once known for his razor-sharp memory. A man whose voice could command a room. A man who could step onto a TV set and instantly become the most powerful presence there. The same man who inspired millions of viewers to tune in every single week, just to see him solve another mystery or deliver another line with that signature intensity. And now picture that same man, slowly forgetting. Forgetting names. Forgetting faces. Forgetting the details of the very world he once controlled so effortlessly. Forgetting pieces of himself. It's almost impossible to wrap your head around, isn't it? How someone who seemed untouchable, someone who looked like the definition of strength, could become so vulnerable. And yet, that was the reality Jack Lord faced in the final chapter of his life. For years, he was the face of power. But in the end, he faced something that no amount of fame, talent, or money could protect him from. Alzheimer's doesn't care how strong you once were. It doesn't care how famous you are. It doesn't care about catchphrases or iconic roles. It just takes. Slowly. Quietly. Relentlessly. And that's exactly what happened to Jack. In his last years, he slipped almost entirely out of the public eye. The man who had once been everywhere, on screens, in magazines, in conversations, was suddenly nowhere. To the outside world, he simply vanished. Fans were left wondering what happened. Where was Jack Lord? Why wasn't he making appearances? Why wasn't he doing interviews? The truth, though, was far more heartbreaking than most people could imagine. He was at home, away from the spotlight, living through one of the cruelest illnesses there is. But here's the thing, you need to know this, he wasn't alone. Through it all, his wife Marie stayed right there by his side. Always. She became his caretaker, his protector, his shield from the world. She gave him love when he couldn't always recognize it. She gave him dignity when his illness tried to strip it away. And she gave him the comfort of knowing that, no matter how much he forgot, he was never truly alone. That's the part of Jack Lord's story that often gets overlooked. We focus on his fame, his catchphrases, his legacy on TV. But maybe the most powerful part of his story isn't what happened on screen. Maybe it's what happened off screen, in those quiet, private moments when Marie held everything together. When Jack Lord passed away in 1998 at the age of 77, the news hit fans like a wave. It wasn't just the loss of a TV legend. It was the shock of realizing what he had been going through all those years, out of sight. People didn't know. His struggles had been kept private, almost like a secret. And when the truth came out, it was like a heavy silence finally breaking. So many fans had spent years remembering him as McGarrett, the tough, sharp detective who always had the answers. And suddenly, they were faced with the reality that the man behind that character had spent his final years fighting a battle most people never saw. And here's something important to understand. Alzheimer's doesn't just affect the person who has it. It reaches into the lives of everyone around them. It changes families. It changes relationships. Experts sometimes call it the long goodbye. And that phrase is painfully accurate. Because you don't lose your loved one all at once. You lose them little by little. Memory by memory. Moment by moment. Think about that for a second. Imagine watching someone you love slowly drift away, not physically, but mentally. Imagine answering the same questions over and over again, because they can't hold on to the answer. Imagine seeing their face light up in recognition one moment, and then go completely blank the next. Imagine being called by a stranger's name, or not being recognized at all, even by the person you've built your life with. That's Alzheimer's. That's the reality Jack and Marie lived with. And here's the thing, Marie carried that weight with incredible strength. She rarely spoke about it publicly. She didn't go to the press. She didn't try to make his illness part of the public conversation. She chose privacy. She chose dignity. She chose to walk that road quietly, faithfully, lovingly. And maybe that's the biggest lesson in Jack Lord's story. That sometimes, the most powerful acts of love aren't the ones that make headlines. They aren't the big, flashy gestures. They're the quiet moments. The loyalty. The devotion. The showing up every single day, even when no one's watching. Marie showed us that. She showed us that real love isn't about the perfect moments. It's about standing by someone in their weakest moments. It's about protecting their dignity when they can't protect it themselves. And it's about reminding them, even when they don't always remember, that they are not alone. So when you think of Jack Lord, how do you picture him? Do you see Steve McGarrett, the no-nonsense detective who never backed down? The TV hero who always had control? Or do you see the man behind the role, the human being who lived with heartbreak, who carried private pain, and who faced one of life's hardest battles with courage and dignity? For me, it's both. I can't separate the two. He was the hero on screen, but he was also the human being off screen. And maybe that's what makes his story so powerful. Because in the end, strength isn't about never falling. Strength is about facing life's hardest moments head-on, even when no one else sees it. Strength is about carrying on with courage, even when you're losing pieces of yourself. And Jack Lord showed us that. Now let me ask you something. When you think of him, what comes to mind first? Do you picture that iconic face on your TV, saying, "Book M. Dano"? Or do you think about the man who lived quietly with a struggle most of the world never saw? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments, because everyone remembers him in their own way, and every memory helps keep his story alive. And if this story touched you, I think you'll really appreciate another video I've done where I talk about the hidden struggles of other classic Hollywood stars. It's a reminder that so much went on behind the curtain, things the cameras never showed, things that reveal just how human these legends really were. Before you head over there, do me one quick favor. If you enjoyed this, hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories like this. And maybe even share this video with someone who grew up watching Hawaii Five-0. It makes a difference, and it helps these stories keep reaching people who care about them. Because here's the thing. Remembering Jack Lord isn't just about celebrating a TV legend. It's about honoring the man he truly was. The man who gave us a character we'll never forget. The man who reminded us that even heroes face battles the world never sees. And maybe, just maybe, his story can remind us to look a little closer at the people in our own lives. To pay attention, even when everything looks fine on the outside. To recognize that everyone has hidden struggles, battles they might not talk about. And to be there for them, the way Marie was there for Jack. Because sometimes, the most powerful stories aren't the ones told in front of millions of people. They're the ones lived quietly, behind closed doors. Stories of love. Stories of loyalty. Stories of courage and dignity. So here's to Jack Lord. A legend on screen. A human being off screen. A man who gave us both a hero to admire and a lesson to carry with us. A reminder that no matter how strong someone looks, they may be fighting battles we'll never fully understand. And that real love, the kind that stands quietly beside someone through it all, is the greatest legacy of all.